Hello everybody and welcome to the YouTube character profile upload of Leanne, and this is a special one this week. We're going to be mashing two character profiles together. This is going to be a cross the history of the podcast mashup of episode 20 and episode, what are we on now, 477 of Conversation Street, because in both of those episodes we did a character profile of Leanne. The first one was what she got up to 2011, and then just recently we've recorded a discussion on what she has been up to since. So if you've been listening to the podcast, you may well have already heard the new stuff, but for the benefit of YouTube and, future, people might be listening to this in 5 years' time for all we know, we're mashing them up together for you to enjoy as one. Apologies for probably the sound quality in the first one isn't so good. I mean, I'm not saying it's brilliant now, but it's probably better than it was. And also, I think this is going to be a difficult one to mash together, because we're going to play the episode 20 when Hello, Gemma's here as well, and I haven't given her a chance to get a word in edgeways yet. So we're going to play the episode 21 and then we'll play the new one, but there was a summary at the beginning of that of episode 20, so I'm going to try and skillfully edit it out, but it's probably going to sound like a massive botched job, so please excuse the join. Anyway, if you want to learn a little bit about what Leanne's been up to for the past 25 years on the cobbles, sit yourself in for the next hour and a half or so and listen to this.
Today's character profile is Leanne Barlow.
Yeah.
She was born on the 2nd of July, 1981.
I was born on the 2nd of July, but not
1981?
1983.
Yep. Parents, Leanne Battersby and Stella Price.
Yep.
But that was a secret until very recently.
Yeah, her siblings. She has numerous siblings, although none of them are from the same two parents. We've got Greg Kelly, her half-brother, Evil Greg, who was a baddie back in the late 90s. Eva Price, her half-sister. Toya, who's the one that I think is most recognised as being Leanne's sister, though she's still only half-sister.
Chesney Brown?
Yeah, Chesney Brown is her adoptive half-brother.
How?
Because when Chesney was adopted by Les, that meant that in some small way he was related
How
to
bizarre.
Leanne. And husbands, she was married to Nick in 1998, and then in 2010 she got married to Peter Barlow. Her first appearance was on the 4th of July 1997.
Independence Day.
Yes. She's had around 1,300 appearances so far, and she is played by the lovely Jane Danson.
Yes.
Yeah, so I remember when the Battersby family were brought into Coronation Street. I've been watching it a few years then, and Brian Park was the producer, who is kind of renowned for axing lots of characters and also bringing in the Battersbys as this family from hell, because he wanted a new family who'd make a big impact on the street.
This was around the time when it was sort of in the news, like Neighbours from Hell were like a thing. Like, you know how like suddenly everyone was talking about road rage all of a sudden?
Yeah.
But then I think around this time it was Neighbours from Hell and people playing loud music late at night and like police ordinances and what can actually be done, and like Watchdog talking about how the scourge of the nation.
Yeah, so Brian Park kind of jumped on the bandwagon and brought in the Battersbys, hopeful.
Didn't they sort of come in on a car all hanging off it or something?
I think some of them came in with a car, and then I think Leanne and Toya were pushing this shopping trolley full of these things that they just nicked. Yeah, because they came in as these total bad girls, and as we know now, Leanne is a saint. I wouldn't dare do anything wrong.
This is the sainted Leanne.
Yeah,
because as we did this character profile, we realised that there's a very definite point at which Leanne completely changes personality.
Yeah, so we'll come to that when we get there. Jane Danson was cast as Leanne after having been a big long-term Corrie fan.
Like we found out about the girl who plays Tina.
Yeah, exactly.
What's her name?
Michelle Keegan. So Leanne was, when she was brought in, she was very loud, very cheeky, in your face. She didn't care what anyone else thought of her. She said at the time, she's like a second-hand Spice Girl. Leanne is like a second-hand Spice Girl who can't afford to go the whole way, but she wouldn't think twice about nicking clothes if she had the chance. So she was basically a big chav.
A big chav, yeah. So 1997, she moves into the street, and Janice gets her a job as a cleaner in the factory.
And that was a scene that I remember. There was a scene in the factory when Leanne caused havoc by dressing up as Jerry Halliwell and singing along to Who Do You Think You Are?
Oh, right.
And at the time, she had these blonde streaks at the
Yeah,
front of her hair,
very 90s.
Yeah, like Jerry had. So that was quite funny. I enjoyed that.
So, in 1998, she runs away to Scotland with the other Nick.
Well, yeah, Adam Rickett, Nick.
Yeah, when they get married.
And when they ran off, I don't think they ran off with the intention of getting married. But I remember this scene of them in a hotel with them in bed, and they were saying, "Oh, wouldn't it be funny if we got married and went up to Gretna Green?"
That's what we said, wasn't it? It would be funny. Should just do it, just for a laugh.
And so they went and got married. And at the time, Gail had been dead set against their relationship because she couldn't see her precious Nick dating a Battersby.
Nick is too good for Leanne.
Yeah, so they got married there. They got a couple of witnesses in from off the street, if I remember rightly.
Well, to Gretna Green, there's always people hanging about.
Yeah. But when Nick and Leanne came back to Weatherfield, she kind of wanted to prove that she'd grown up a bit, and she started to work at the cabin.
Yeah.
And since then, her and Rita have had a bit of a sort of grandma-granddaughter kind of relationship. I mean, it doesn't take very much for Rita to kind of be a lovely grandma to you, like we found out with Tina.
Yeah, Rita takes everyone under her wing.
Yeah, because she hasn't had any children of her own.
Yeah, so in 1999, she's pregnant, but Nick forces her to have an abortion and tell everyone that she had a miscarriage.
Yeah, so he's a git right from the start.
So they split up, and he goes off to live in Canada.
Yeah.
And she starts to date Vikram Desai.
Yeah, he was. I can't remember whether he was in it at all when you were watching it, but he was one of. He ended up working Streetcars with Steve. He might have even bought into Streetcars with Steve, if I remember.
So
she had to quit the job at the cabin at the time because there was a misunderstanding over missing money. I think she was probably accused of taking some.
Yeah.
And also she was a total party animal. She'd been having lots of late nights and she couldn't really hack this proper job. So she started working at the Rovers as a barmaid.
Everyone knows that's a fake job.
Now around this time she became addicted to cocaine, and she ended up in debt to Jez Quigley, who was the kind of the big baddie of 1999. I mean, he was a really terrifying guy. He was like the local drug dealer and gang leader.
His name's cropped up quite a lot in our character profiles.
Yeah, he's the one that Jim McDonald ended up beating up, and he died as a result of those injuries. And she was sometimes forced to sleep with Jez because of being in debt with him. Yeah,
so she was going to let him rob the Rovers, but she backed out at the last minute and was beaten up for her troubles.
Yeah, by some of his cronies.
Yeah.
And in the following year, in the year 2000, she kind of had to escape, really, the mob. So she left to live in Amsterdam with Mark Redman, who was Mike Baldwin's son. But he'd also been seeing Linda Sykes at the time, because that was when Mike was going to marry Linda, but she'd been having an affair with Mark. But that's a story for another day, I think. Mm-hmm. So she went off for it, and she was away from the programme for 4 years. And at the time, I thought, well, that was it. Now, I really like Leanne. She was a brilliant character.
You liked her because she had a birthday at the same time.
Yeah, it doesn't take very much for me to like someone. No. She had been involved in some really good storylines, and I was quite disappointed when she left. I think that was the time when she left to join the cast of The Bill.
Which we also used to watch.
Yeah, and she played a character called Gemma in The Bill, and she was a lesbian police officer, the first one that they'd had in the programme. But she returned in 2004 to the Cobbles after Les found her working in a lap dancing bar in Amsterdam, and she caused lots of trouble for Nick, who had also returned then and was dating Maria.
Was that old Nick or new Nick?
This was still Adam Rickett Nick. Right. She'd heard that Maria had betrayed Toya by having an affair or having a fling with her boyfriend, which I think we covered when we did Maria as our character profile a few weeks ago. That led to a fight in the Rovers between Leanne and Maria, and Nick left again in shame.
Get away, Nick.
Yeah.
You shameful beast.
She started another relationship around that time with Jamie Baldwin and Frankie, who was...
did not like her.
No, and Frankie was Jamie's stepmom, wasn't she?
That was bizarre.
Because, that was when Jamie ended up having a fling with his stepmom, which was all a bit weird.
Bit icky.
But in any case, Leanne and Jamie got engaged, but then Leanne started an affair with Danny, who was Jamie's dad, so it was all a bit incestuous, really.
Gross.
So Leanne and Jamie temporarily split up after that, but then they started their relationship again, and not long after things had blown over. So in around 2005, 2006, that was when Mike Baldwin was going through his Alzheimer's and suffering from that. Leanne and Jamie were looking after Mike, although really they wanted to get their hands on his estate. Jamie manipulated Mike into changing his will, but Leanne discovered that Mike had made an even later will after that, leaving everything to Adam.
Adam Rickett.
No, not that. Don't confuse that. Adam Baldwin, or Barlow, I think it was. And Leanne used this as blackmail, to blackmail Jamie after he started a proper relationship with Frankie. And basically Leanne wrecked his life and then left for Spain.
Yeah.
So she's still not really a very nice piece of work at the moment.
She still doesn't turn good for a while.
No.
Because in 2007 she comes back to the street working as a high-class prostitute.
Yeah, no, that was
like
quite
in Pretty Woman.
That was quite a shocking story for Coronation Street to have like prostitution in it.
She was called Rachel.
That was funny for us because one of our best friends is called Rachel.
Yeah. Janice was not happy about this. Doesn't she pretend she's working in a conference at a hotel or something, and then Janice comes to see her and she's like, I'm looking for my daughter, she's at a conference. And they're like, oh, they don't have a conference.
Yeah, that's true. I remember that now.
We don't have a conference, but there's a prostitute in the corner who looks just like your daughter.
Yeah, so she made Leanne choose between the job and her new boyfriend Liam Connor.
Yes, because she doesn't want her to continue this.
Yeah, really. So she stays with Liam.
They have lots of heart-to-hearts, don't they? Because she's saying, "I can make it, Mum. I've got money. I've got a good job." And she's like, "Yeah, but you're selling yourself. You can't do it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So later that year, she went into business with Carla. And they decided to open a restaurant together.
Her and Carla would make a brilliant.
Well, we know what happens there. She couldn't afford to do this restaurant, so she briefly returned to prostitution again to raise the cash for it. Carla found this out and called off the business arrangement. This was in 2007, I think I said. So later on that year, Leanne was kidnapped by Paul Connor after Carla discovered that he was one of her clients as a prostitute. Carla revealed Leanne's side business to Liam, who dumped her. And I think I forgot to say, it got a bit crazy there. Paul got killed in the car crash after he kidnapped Leanne, but we mentioned that in last week's character profile. She borrowed £10,000 from Janice's boyfriend Roger to open
Roger?
To open Valandro's restaurant herself, and she took on Paul Clayton, who was one of Terry's sons, as a cook.
He then invests in the business.
Yes. But the business sort of goes down the pan, really. And
she manipulates Paul to talk to the restaurant, which was Dan's idea.
So she had another boyfriend, Dan, who's Danny, who's Dan was working at the Bookies. Yeah,
and so he flees the country to avoid getting caught. So she starts working at the Bookies with Dan, and then goes back to the Rovers, and then is fired by Michelle, who accuses Leanne of sleeping with Steve.
Yeah. In 2008, there was a storyline where
this is quite shocking.
Yeah.
I remember this.
Yeah, the factory lottery syndicate won £25,000, and Leanne convinced Janice not to let the factory girls know about it. So for
some reason they let Janice be in charge.
Yeah.
So she starts
the most trustworthy person there.
She sets up a fake account under Rosie's name.
Yeah, the name of Rosie Webster, which is a bit of a strange idea, but it then led to what happened next in the storyline, because Rosie was kidnapped by John Stape at this time. And the police were suspicious when money started disappearing from the account, even though...
Well, yeah, because they're investigating her disappearance, so obviously it comes up she's got a bank account, and then they realise...
she's taking money out of it, so
the money's going somewhere, so they know that she's... Well, they know she's alive. And I do remember them talking to the Websters about this as well, and they're like, but she doesn't have any money, she's just a child.
Yeah. Janice later admitted her guilt to the police.
Well, she
kind of had to, because the walls were closing on her, and Dan left Leanne after this because he was shocked about what she had done.
Yes. Autumn 2008, this is where Leanne becomes the character we know today.
Yeah.
Because Peter comes back to the street.
Yeah, he'd been down in Portsmouth, I think.
Yeah, with his son Simon.
And this was after Lucy had died from cancer.
The florist.
Yeah, Simon's mum.
So Leanne takes a shine to both of them, and she starts a relationship with Peter, but she tells him to stay off the booze. And from this moment on, she really sees herself as Simon's mum, and
very soon she falls in love with Simon, and
she changes her whole personality, because the Leanne we know now would never. I mean, she managed to justify being a prostitute to herself, didn't she? But I can't imagine her now justifying stealing money from a lottery.
No, or doing all these other things that she does as a kid.
Or setting fire to a restaurant, or
no.
all of the other things that she's done.
I wonder sometimes now whether Leanne actually thinks she is Simon's mum. The way she talks about it, I think someone needs to say to her, you didn't actually give birth to this boy, and you've only known him for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, she's known him 4 years now, isn't she?
Yeah. So what sort of storylines have they had?
Well, in 2009, Peter goes back to rehab with Leanne supporting him. But she leaves him when she discovers that he's been cheating on her. Yeah,
and that was just for a summer that Leanne left again. Meanwhile, Simon got a rabbit and called it
Leanne.
Yeah, and it was a boy rabbit as well, wasn't it?
And he just loved Leanne so much, he missed her.
And Peter didn't really like the idea of being reminded about this, about human Leanne.
Yeah, when they've been on, Leanne and Peter have been on and off, really, for years. And whenever they're off, Peter does everything in his power to try to convince Simon that he doesn't like Leanne anymore, and he's not going to see her anymore, and she's not his real mum.
But Simon will not unconditionally loves Leanne.
So that teaches us that motherhood is not about who you squeeze out of your uterus.
Nice.
Family is more than biology. Okay.
So eventually he woos her back. He gets her back. And they decide to open a bar under the viaduct.
Yeah, Ken thinks this is a stupid idea because
Peter's an alcoholic.
Yes, but they get backing from Simon's other granddad, George.
Yeah, he was a bit of a nasty piece of work.
He was a bit.
He was trying to steal Simon away.
Yes,
this
everyone loves Simon.
Lucy's
Such a lovely kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Peter becomes alcoholic again. George tries to get custody of Simon, and Peter and Leanne get engaged.
Huh.
Yeah, so Nick comes back in 2010 as evil Nick and decides to open the joinery bar, and he asks Leanne to be the manager. And meanwhile, Peter and Carla grow closer together.
And so do Nick and Leanne, because they're kind of both having affairs at the same time.
Yeah. So the tram crash happens, because everyone loves a good tram crash. And Peter gets caught in it, doesn't he? And Will gets wheeled into the
very
hospital.
badly injured.
He's on his deathbed. He wants to marry her. He wants to marry Leanne.
Yeah.
And she doesn't really want to, does she?
No.
She has to be convinced, as I remember.
Yeah.
And they're sort of like, go on, it's only for 5 minutes.
Yeah, it really looked like he was on his last leg.
I think she only did marry him because she thought he would die.
Yeah, and I think as a viewer, I wasn't sure whether Peter was going to make it through or not, because we'd been promised 4 funerals, wasn't it? Because it was a wedding and 4 funerals, and the 4th funeral turned out to be... No, it wasn't the tram driver, it was just somebody who got caught in it that was never even in it. And I did wonder whether Peter was going to die.
Obviously. Yeah, because we, as you know, as you guys all know, we try to avoid spoilers.
Yeah.
But and sometimes they do get us, don't they?
Sometimes.
So, sometimes you hear months before, like we did with Becky, so-and-so's going to leave. But sometimes they just axe them, and that's it. So... They get married, and
then he pulls through.
He pulls through, the little sneak. In 2011, Nick starts manipulating Peter into drinking again.
Yeah, so that he can get back with Leanne.
Yeah, and Leanne and Peter decide to renew their vows because they never had a real ceremony, did they? No. She was just standing over his bed.
Yeah, Peter, though, before the ceremony, finds out about Leanne's and Nick's little affair, and at the ceremony he says he wants a divorce.
Does he say it at the altar?
I think so. I think he does. I think he kind of hobbles up on his crutches.
He does it as a revenge move, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Because I have this image in my mind of Leanne at the altar, sort of like crying.
But he's persuaded by Ken to get back with her, and around this time as well, Stella arrives in Weatherfield, and there's this big reveal that she was Leanne's real mum.
I can't remember how that happened. Did we know?
We didn't. She was kind of just hanging around Leanne a bit, I think.
The only reason she came back really was to be with Leanne.
Yeah, she wanted to be near her.
And Leanne didn't take kindly to it to begin with, because she's like, I've already got a mum, I don't need you.
Yeah, well, she never called Janice mum, and I think Stella is now the first person she's ever actually been able to call mum.
Yeah.
But I'm still not totally convinced because we've seen Leanne with a mother figure in Janice for such a long time. For someone else to come along and now Leanne's got a new mum, it still is a bit
where
peculiar.
Is Janice?
I don't even remember. I can't even remember
why
she
left.
left.
And have a fight with Stella.
That would be awesome.
Don't you think she would? I think she would. I think she'd punch her in the face and go, "Get your hands off my girl."
Well, you know, Leanne's getting married next week, so I'm sure that Janice will come to the ceremony, won't she? And Toya will see them all there, all these siblings.
I'm sure they'll phone them up and tell them, and.
What will be their excuses? I think they got it's Christmas. Sorry, can't come to your wedding. It's Christmas.
The flights are too expensive. Got to iron the cap.
And then this year, everything came out about Peter's affair with Carla during Frank's rape trial. Leanne was going to leave, but she decides to stay on to fight for her son Simon.
Yeah. And she manages to get custody of Simon when
Carla and
Peter leave, basically. So.
And since then, she started seeing Nick again and got
engaged.
They've
been engaged, and they're going to get married on Christmas Day. The end.
Reading through the storylines for Leanne, it made me think of just how many really, really interesting storylines she's had. I mean, the stuff with the drugs was really exciting. The lottery one was interesting. The prostitution was quite big. She's been a really great character. It's just recently she's just been nag, and that's all she does. She's turned into a bit of a Sally Webster.
Yeah, and you can just imagine if she met her past self, how horrified she would be, and how much she would go, "Oh, don't do that. Why'd you do that for? Oh, you're just terrible." Yeah. If her younger self was on the street as a character, she would be calling her all sorts of names.
Yeah, I'm all for people bettering themselves, but I think she's gone a bit too far. Who do you think
she's only like that in reaction to Peter, though, isn't she?
Yeah. Who do you think she's better with, Peter or Nick, or should she cut her
losses? She should become a nun.
nun.
She needs to just keep off men for a while and just stay with Simon. Concentrate on raising Simon and stop trying to make a family out of the next bloke to come along.
But if she was going to pick one,
no,
Peter.
No,
because Nick's just boring.
Only because Peter is off the source. Do you not think that Peter will always, his next storyline at any point could always be picking up a bottle, just like Carla?
It's like Carla. They need to think of something else for them to do.
It's just and he's sanctimonious as well. Two sanctimonious people in a relationship just don't go.
In recent years, Jane Danson has had quite a lot of praise heaped upon her for her portrayal of Leanne, and because she is a really good actress and very, very believable. It's just a shame she's been so naggy.
But she's so good at nagging and acting at nagging that we're totally convinced and we hate her.
Well, in 2011 she got the best dramatic performance at the British Soap Awards. No, I still like her. I hope that they do something different with her. They've got to, because this has been dragging on almost since 2008, since Peter's come back. This on off with Peter.
Because at least with Sally, there's always a bit of a comedic edge to her nagging, because you always think, Sally, shut up. You don't know. You're just a bit crap, aren't you? Whereas Leanne really has convinced everybody, including us, that butter wouldn't melt in her mouth.
Yeah.
And then when you look back on her little biography there, Leanne, you ain't so good.
So that is everything we had to say about Leanne in episode 20 of the podcast back in 2012. And now I'm going to transition effortlessly to what we've been saying about her recently. Here's everything that she's been doing since then. Just to round off that year, we had the wedding between Leanne and Nick, but it didn't go down so well, because on the way to the wedding, Leanne decides she's just gonna pop in and check on Peter, the ex. I don't think that's as early a sign that the marriage is going to work out so well. You got to go and see your ex on the way. And she was saying, look, I'm willing to give things up with Nick and try again with you, Peter. And then Carla shows up, so Leanne decides to make a hasty exit and marry Nick after all. However, at the ceremony, Eva, Leanne's kind of sister, reveals...
Not kind of, half-sister.
Half-sister. She reveals...
It's only Toya and Eva who aren't related.
Yes, that's right.
So Eva and Leanne share the mother, Stella.
Yeah.
And no, Leanne and
Toya aren't blood related at all.
No, that's right.
No.
But But Eva
and
Toya aren't really.
No, not particularly.
Linked.
No.
But Leanne and Toya were raised together, but they thought that they shared Janet. No,
they didn't. They knew that
always...
they didn't. They knew that they didn't.
I don't remember.
At this wedding,
Eva
Eva revealed to
Leanne.
Eva revealed to everybody why Leanne exactly turned up to the wedding late, i.e. she'd been trying to get back together with Peter. So Nick cancels the wedding and then goes off and has a secret bonk with Kylie, only the wife of his brother.
And that's
David.
where it all started.
Who's
all the
the
troubles.
daddy?
Nick. This is why Nick ended up falling out with David and getting hit by a truck.
Yes.
And then that led to his brain damage and him being much more fun.
Yeah. Well, do you want to kind of go? It's the 2013, Gemma. What did Leanne go up to, please?
She's decided she's going to leave Weatherfield.
No.
But Nick convinces her to stay, and they end up getting married anyway on the 11th of January. So after all that, they got married again.
2 weeks later.
Second time
Probably
round.
cancellation or something.
Kylie finds out she's at the duck.
Who's the daddy?
Who's the daddy was one of the...
Yeah, that was a good story, wasn't it? I think. Because it was obviously could have been Nick or David.
Brothers.
Yeah.
So that was pretty gross, Kylie. You slag. Nick ends up in a coma for 2 months.
Undercover.
Gets
COVID for 2 months.
Nick ends up in a coma for 2 months because he has this... You've written a van accident, but...
He was in a van.
But,
Wasn't it? Another car comes smashing
but
into the
David
side
did mean
of them.
him mischief, so it was an accident, waiting
It's an
to
accident
happen.
in inverted commas.
Yeah. So after recovering, he goes back home with Leanne, but then the truth comes out at Lily's christening that
Truth?
Nick had spent the night with Kylie, which leads to a temporary split for Nick and Leanne. Oh no. Love's young dream over again. I can't believe it. Because of his post-accident mood swings at Christmas, Nick hits Leanne.
I think that was like Christmas Day Spectacular. Massive slap in the bistro.
Go on, bash her. No, that's bad. Don't encourage violence against anybody. He says, I should probably leave you because violence is wrong.
Yeah, so things were not looking so good for Leanne and Nick by the end of 2013. No. So she decided to move on. She decided to get off that treadmill or the roundabout merry-go-round washing machine of, do I go out with Peter? Do I go out with Nick? Oh, back and forth, back and forth. Cal comes along, played by Jimmy Mystery.
Yeah.
And I think they were quite a good match. I think it made just quite a nice change. Looking back on it, she had somebody else to go out with.
Yeah. They weren't setting the world on fire with their...
Don't say fire around Cal, that's disrespectful.
But you've written jealous Nick fires Leanne from the bistro.
Oh my gosh, it's all fire.
What?
Yeah, so Nick sacks Leanne from the bistro because he can't cope with the fact that she's found another bloke. And then
even though it was his idea for them to split up because he hit her.
He reveals to the Nazir, so Cal's family, that Leanne used to be a lady of the night, shall we say.
And they did
he
not
was
like that.
Very petty, was Nick. He could just blame everything on his brain injury.
Sorry.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
He also started pretending to make... He started pretending that his brain injury made things worse, didn't he? He put on these fake... Did he pretend he was having seizures or bad migraines or something? I can't remember.
Brilliant.
But he just to try and screw with Leanne, basically. So Leanne, midway through 2014, starts working at Prima Donna for a bit. I've completely forgotten about that.
I forgot about that as well.
I don't think it lasted for long.
Picture it.
But then when she discovers that Leanne's been...
No, Nick.
I said, how do you know what I was going to say? She discovers that Nick had been... Faking, embellishing the effects of his brain injuries. So she retaliates by smashing up the bistro one evening while Kylie was celebrating her birthday there, no less. Oops. And this kind of makes Nick realise that he's maybe been a bit too far. So he fesses up and says, yeah, you got me. I'm just faking it. So she returns to working at the bistro again in December.
I can't see that him admitting anything makes this situation better, and that
she's
should
very
start
forgiving, Leanne.
Working at the bistro.
She's a saint.
They should stay apart from one another at all costs.
No, they're destined. They're star-crossed lovers. They've known each other for nearly 20 years at this point. 2015, Gemma. Tragedy strikes.
Poor Cal dies in a Victoria Court fire, and it's all Leanne's fault.
Why?
She doesn't blame herself. because she wouldn't let him come down the ladder when he was going to, because she had to tell him that she wanted to marry him, and then he went back inside because the fire was too big, and then he blewed up.
Yeah.
Simon starts abusing Leanne, maybe related to that. No, not related to that, but, you know, was it karma? No. No, Gemma, no. Don't say horrible things like that. He starts abusing Leanne, throws a TV remote at her, then he starts hitting her. This was quite sad.
Yeah, this was. I don't know whether I particularly enjoyed this story. I'm not a massive Simon fan, to be honest. And I think at the time lots of people were saying, oh, hang on a minute, would Leanne really take this? Especially considering, you know, she was dragged up on the streets, basically. Would she you know, take this kind of abuse from some snotty-nosed kid? But Jane Danson did respond to these not criticism of the story, these comments, I suppose. But apparently she thought the same thing as well originally. But then she kind of grew to understand it was, you know, when it was framed around the fact that Simon has had a really difficult past. His mum died at an early age. His dad's been utterly flaky. And Leanne saw herself as being the one constant in Simon's life who never gave up on him. And she thought, well, look, if I turn my back on him now, this young boy is going to have nobody. So she got stiff upper lip and just let him do it to her for a little while at least. But then she meets somebody new. Well, new for us, but as an old acquaintance comes along.
Dan the Chin. She introduced to him. He's going out with Liz.
I don't remember what his surname was, but that was what we called him on the podcast.
Yeah, we did.
He was played by the guy who played Dave Quillen in the Bill, wasn't he?
In the Bill, yeah.
Did enjoy
so maybe
him.
he will be back for the Bill.
Oh yes, because they are
Are
bringing
they
back
still
the Bill.
doing that?
I believe they are. Well, did Jane Danson's character did die on the Bill, didn't she? She can't go back there.
What? I didn't know she was in it.
Yes, we talked about that in the last character profile. So she played a character called Gemma.
That's a stupid name.
She was
for a woman.
She was the Bill's first lesbian police officer, I'll have you know.
Openly.
I think that she died
I bet you some of them
spoilers, sorry, and everything,
kept
but
themselves to themselves and just got on with their own private lives and their own private time.
in my head, she died in a live episode of The Bill, and I could be completely mixing her up with somebody else. Please write in and tell me if I am. But anyway, yeah, Gemma Osborne, I think that she was called, maybe. I don't know.
That would be my name
Anyway.
if I married Daniel.
Yes. Dan comes along, doesn't she? Doesn't he? And like you said, he was going out with Liz.
Yes. And he had been a customer of hers when
client.
she was a
Streetwalker.
lady of the night. And she says...
She didn't
No,
walk
he
the streets,
says...
she was far too classy for that.
Yeah, she was an escort.
She was probably in Ray's hotels.
Probably, yeah. He says, please don't tell Liz. And if you do, I'll tell Simon. It was a mutually assured destruction.
Yeah, because there was Simon at this point. I can't remember how old he was. 13, 14,
Well,
maybe.
He's nearly 18
know.
now, isn't he?
Yeah, so he didn't know about his mum's past. And it was funny because, you know, as viewers, we're watching this show and like, we know everything that happened in the past.
Of course we do.
And lots of the other
omniscient.
characters do as well. And we just kind of assume that some of this gossip and scandalous information about these characters...
It's common knowledge.
Yeah. But
no,
no, Simon didn't realise
Secrets and
this.
lies.
Yes.
It all comes out anyway because Liz
Oh.
finds out about Leanne and Dan's clandestine chats. Then this all goes wrong. It goes wrong for Dan
Yeah, I think
completely.
it goes south
Loses
pretty
his
quickly.
job, loses his family, so he decides to take it out on Leanne, starts stalking her. Then he holds her and Simon hostage, tells Simon that she was a fun-time lady for hire.
That's the best one yet. Although if I had ordered a fun time lady and then Leanne came along, in short, changed it. Come on, crack a smile,
what do you do? Do you know any jokes?
Can you play a switch with me?
Can you play cards? I can do solitaire.
Leanne, we love you.
Right, poor Leanne. This is supposed to be a celebration.
This is a celebration.
Leanne.
We're only doing it
Okay.
now because she just turned 40. This is
know.
her 40th.
Listen,
what's
just
40?
like-
Ruby, isn't it? This is a Ruby anniversary of life, and we're just
Just like a
dragging her across the mud.
deliciously aged balsamic vinegar. She only gets better as time goes on.
Vinegar.
Mmm. Well, look, balsamic vinegar starts quite sour, and then when you leave it for a while, it gets sweeter.
Oh,
And a
okay.
bit thicker.
She started off thick. She's grown.
Anyway, he tells
Like
tells
mould.
if your vinegar's gone mouldy, You need to send it back.
Carry on.
Right, he tells
I hope
Simon...
Jane Danson's not listening to this. I'm sorry. It's only a joke.
She knows it's a joke. Well, she would do if she was listening.
I think maybe Leanne...
Also, she's not Leanne, is she?
She's not.
Jane Danson doesn't...
She's great. She does ice skating and dancing on ice and everything.
She's sporty.
Yeah.
She does Spice Girls singing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, so, so he tells Simon about her past, then lets her go, and then he gets arrested. Simon...
So when Sar goes down the chin...
doesn't modify his behaviour towards Leanne. In fact, it gets worse. He
starts chucking her about the place.
He throws her at a table.
Yeah.
Which the traditional way of doing it is to throw the table at her. But this is Coronation Street. They're always trying to do things different. She tells Dan what's happening because that's her boyfriend's son.
Yes. Her dead boyfriend.
Dead boyfriend.
Son.
Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah, they started kind of a nice little relationship.
I liked this. It was very, very brief.
Did he come on to her at some point?
There was a bit of I don't know about this, but up until that point, it was all right. She says to Suzanne what's happening. Then he gets sent to live with Ken.
Not Ken. Can you look after Suzanne's mood, please? I don't know what to do. His dad's dead. He wants somebody to make his tea for him.
Yeah, no problem. As long as you like vegetarian food.
And this is where Zidane learned to be the top chef of Manchester.
Yeah, Deirdre's secret marrow recipe.
No, Simon went to go and live with Ken.
Then punishment. He starts hitting Amy. He's horrible. So in 2016...
I want to say 2016. We're all taking years here, sorry.
You were just busy wiping your eyes.
Leanne reports Simon... I've got a hair in my mouth.
Stop eating hairs.
Simon is reported to the police by Leanne. It's for his own good. Good for you, Leanne. And then, this is one of my favourite Leanne things. I love this in recent years. This is amazing. So we get to see a mystery man be welcomed into Leanne's flat. And somewhere midway between, in 2016, maybe late spring, early summer possibly. And we saw that she opened the door to somebody, but we didn't know who it was.
See, and I said earlier, as a joke, that us soap viewers are omniscient. We know everything that's going on. But... this was one of those rare cases where we're in the dark. We're teased about something. Because usually you kind of presume that anything you haven't seen a character do is boring or it didn't happen, right? So they kind of get back in their little boxes when we're not watching them.
Yeah.
And don't do anything interesting.
I mean, sometimes they'll look at a letter or speak to someone on the phone and they'll know things that we don't know for a little bit. But this was a great mystery for a little while, wasn't it? Who has Leanne let into her flat? Who is the lucky man who spent the night with Leanne and get her pregnant? It transpires it is Steve McDonald, who just split up with Michelle at the time, and he needed a little bit of comfort in the arms of Ms. Battersby or Barlow or whatever she was at that point. So Leanne's determined to keep the baby because she's, I think, had fertility issues in the past, and she's obviously got Simon.
This is her first child that she's birthed.
Yeah. I mean, she's knocking on a bit now, isn't she? She's what?
She's 40.
Well, she's 40 now. So back
she was 36.
She was 36. Ancient, well past childbearing age.
Be quiet. Thank you very much.
Biological clockers.
It's fine to have a baby whenever you want, even if you're 85.
We'll get to it one day, Gemma, maybe.
Will we? Okay.
So she's pregnant with Steve's baby, and Steve offers to pay for an abortion.
Wow.
And
aren't they free in this country?
Private abortion.
What's
the
different?
very, very best?
What is different about it? Like if no, I'm not going to say anything.
We won't make jokes about that.
So you can get your money back. If it doesn't work.
So Leanne had already had an abortion, hadn't she? Because obviously when she got pregnant in 99, 98, 99. Late
back
90s.
In the day, just say that.
And Nick had made her go through with an abortion, and she was determined this time she's not going to do that again. She's going to keep this baby.
You should make the
be
decision
a brilliant mum
for yourself. Don't let a man tell you what to do.
Yes. So she's going to do that. She also becomes bistro manager in 2016 as well. She doesn't like it though when Nick starts flirting with a customer one night. And he tried to rekindle things with her and everything, but she'd rejected him. But she's obviously still got these lingering feelings for Nick. Now, meanwhile, Steve has told his old mum Liz about the situation, i.e., Leanne's baby's mine. That annoyed Leanne somewhat. as did when Steve got Michelle pregnant, and he was a bit of a super donor at that time, wasn't he? He only had to look at a woman.
Well, I never made eye contact with him.
He only had to gurn at them.
Oh, they're like, cool.
So Leanne's pregnant, Michelle's pregnant. Leanne says, I'm getting out of here, too much drama for me. Off we go to Liverpool, Simon. Nick finds out, though, and goes to the coach station to rescue her in time.
Goes on a coach? That doesn't sound like Nick at all.
She's sitting on the coach ready to go away, and he comes and rescues her. And then the pair of them decide to give things another go. It was lovely and sweet, and they agree that the best course of action is to tell the whole world that he is the baby's father. What could possibly go wrong with that story?
Nothing.
And there was lots of debate around the time about is Nick and Leanne destined to be with each other? Do they have this long-term bond? They keep going. They're so bad for each other, but they can't leave each other alone. I think I'm on the side of yes, they deserve each other.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it.
We've seen this couple grow and bond and fall out and marry and go out and hate each other and shout at each other and love each other and all sorts for over
like
20 years
me,
now. 25 years.
25 years?
We've seen Nick and Leanne together.
You do
and
less for
I think
murdering
that,
someone.
You know, for sheer rose-tinted spectacles' sake,
well, listen,
I am happy for them to stay together.
They've got to stay together because they've got so much history, and also, if they really didn't like each other that much, believe it or not, they could either of them move. Yes. But they won't, will they? Because they just love it too much.
This is the thing about soaps, isn't it? You get the chance to follow the characters for so many years.
Tumultuous.
And there are so few characters who have been involved in each other's lives quite so closely for this long, really.
Yeah.
I mean, especially these days. And there's obviously been lots of periods of time between 97 and 2021 where they haven't been an item. But I just think, why not? It's like Steve and Tracy, and lots of people hate them together. But
but I like the history of it. I think it's something kind of magical.
That counts for a lot in my eyes.
Yes.
So anyway, they're back together again, late 2016. And speaking of late 2016, who should show up on Coronation Street on Christmas Day, no less? Toya, she's back. She's left the programme in 2003, I'm going to say. And she made a triumphant return in the bed of Peter Barlow.
Disgusting.
I know. Shocking.
I can't believe it.
Lots of people have forgotten about this now, even though they were landlords and landlady, the Rovers, for a little bit. So Toya had split up with her husband, whatever his name was. Greg. Toby. Bob. So then Leanne says, right, you come and live with me, Toya, it's fine. She didn't realise that this affair was going on, by the way. And when she does, she disowns her sister.
Well, because she had married Peter.
Well, yes, it's a little bit,
whoopsie-doo.
A bit awkward, isn't it? A little bit close for comfort. I think it's isn't that like a rule of sisterhood or something?
I don't have a sister.
Don't secretly have an affair with your fake sisters.
Sleep with whoever I like. I picked you. Can you believe it?
2017. A vintage
Michelle loses Rory at 23 weeks. This is very sad because Steve had obviously been openly the father of Rory.
Yes, I like.
But secretly had a baby with Leanne.
Yes. I like how we had to say that was very sad. It reminded me of when Tyrone and Fizz told Ruby that when Kirsty died, it was very sad just recently.
You need to bear that in mind. So Leanne's still pregnant at this point.
Yes.
She gives birth to baby Oliver in a lift, and Toya helps her.
In a lift.
And this was great. This story was also great because they're celebrating in the bistro the birth of baby Oliver. Nick's family's all there because Nick's the father, as far as everybody knows. Then suddenly,
somebody passes Steve the baby.
Takes the baby in his arms and just looks at everyone and goes, "I'm the dad." Like, he couldn't resist. He was overcome.
That was a brilliant moment.
That was such a great twist because
unexpected. We did not know that was going to happen. We thought,
secret to carry on until
these sort of things have a habit of coming out. But I was expecting, a good 6 months down the line or something.
He
and
just
to happen
said
so
it
soon.
right there. It wrongfooted everybody.
I remember watching this with you.
Obviously
we were just
still
like,
grieving. This was terrible because Michelle was there too.
Yeah.
And now she suddenly realises that Steve had another baby and this baby's still alive. And she punches Leanne in the face. Poor Michelle. I mean, this whole Rory thing, we made fun of her quite a lot about how dramatic she got over this, because it's a TV show, and so we're allowed.
Also, we didn't know. Maybe this is one of the things that made us like Leanne more, because it was probably around about this time, maybe a little bit later, we started warming to her more. But the fact that she was enemies with Michelle, helps.
It wasn't anyone's fault, really, was it?
No.
Nick stands by Leanne, but things get a bit difficult because Steve wants to be part of Oliver's life. Then there's a freak quicksand accident in June, and we speak no more about that, but Nick left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a little bit.
Yeah. Leanne moves into the toilet with Rover.
Moves into the toilet with Rover. Into the Rovers with Toya.
They both take it in turns sitting. She has a trial period relationship with Steve.
Does she just like cock a leg against the lamppost? Is that how it works?
No, because you're in the toilet.
Oh, okay.
Why would you be on a lamppost? You have to get outside the toilet.
I didn't know whether you meant like a doggy toilet.
What is a doggy toilet?
A lamppost. I'm a cat person, I don't know these things.
Okay. Anyway, Steve and Leanne not suited to one another whatsoever. They briefly get engaged, but it goes absolutely nowhere.
That was, again, brilliant. That was one of my favourite Leanne moments of recent years, because they decide that, we maybe it'd work. We got a child together. You're single now. I'm single now. And then they get like drunk together one night. There's a great gif actually of Leanne like necking a couple of glasses of champagne just so that she can try and loosen up and have a snog with Steve. And there was like a week, I remember, when the two of them were just desperately trying to make something, but they were clearly completely unsuited for each other because Steve's just
because they're just not suited. Not everybody is.
But
anyway,
that was proper comedy gold. And yes, Leanne can be, very harrowing. She can be naggy. She can be cowy. She can be very, very dramatic. But scenes like that prove that Jane Danson can actually be utterly hilarious. And
I know they just don't give her very much to work with on that part of Leanne's stories, do they? She rescues Michelle from evil stalker Glass as well, and falls down the stairs.
Oh yeah, she does have adventures with that, doesn't she?
For a little bit.
Yeah. 2018. Oh yeah, this is good as well. This is another brilliant Leanne moment, as they were dabbling with comedy with her, weren't they? So she gets into a relationship with Imran, dishy lawyer of the street, Imran, who is already seeing Toya at the time.
Oh,
and that was a fantastic, again, 2-week long story maybe.
Made for some great, hilarious pictures.
Yeah, and he was being
bistro.
In the bistro with him in his purple polo, and he was just trying to string along these two sisters. I mean, he was living the best life, wasn't he? Basically,
is that your idea of the best life? Sounds too stressful for me.
And then Toya and Leanne find out about this. And then they go along to the bistro with him, and they basically pretend that they're up for a threesome with him, don't they?
And he's like, oh dear.
And he's like stuck in the middle of these two that are suggesting some very risque behaviour on that lawyer's office table, and before they eventually just ditch him publicly. But that was hilarious. I enjoyed that so much. This was another thing that I think really, really helped the character of Leanne getting Toya back. And although they're in no way close to how they were when they first came into it, I don't think that initial period of Ray Battersby really lasted very long, did it? Because we just watched 1999, so you've seen 2.5 years of Leanne and Toya, and the very, very early chavvy Neighbours from Hell days. It doesn't last long, does it? It's like 6 months, a year or so. A spider comes along, and he teaches Toya in the ways of vegetarianism and
tantric sex.
Probably that as well.
Moonlit shagging sessions on the red wreck.
Yeah, that sort of thing. But anyway, having Toya back definitely helped. Give a bit of a softer side to Leanne. Give a more fun side. And when it was her, Eva, and Toya living together in the Rovers, that was brilliant. That was classic. I just every scene in the Rovers I'm just looking forward to,
brilliant.
because they were so super together. Loved it. Anyway, I'm lost where I am now. Oh yeah, so Steve then has another one night stand with Leanne. Thought he'd try his luck again.
Maybe they don't get on when they're talking.
Yeah.
But they get
on.
on.
And they're standing up, not so good. Lying down,
it's all fine.
Yeah. So I can't remember what possessed her to give it another punt with Steve.
Well, we know what made him think he could.
He thought he was on a free pass, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because he was engaged to Tracy Barlow, and Tracy had given him a spa pass or something, wasn't it?
He went to Leanne and said, you know how you're a fun lady for hire? Do you take coupons?
Yeah.
So I got this free pass.
Yeah. He thinks... She tells him he's got a free pass or something, and he thinks that it's very contrived, but it was kind of funny, wasn't it? Anyway, the wedding between Steve and Tracy kicks off in spectacular fashion when it all comes out. Obviously, on the day, Tracy discovers what Steve's been up to between the sheets with Leanne. So Tracy punches Steve after the reception. I can't remember whether did she get in a fight with Leanne as well? I can't remember. I know Leanne makes a fairly hasty exit, but I probably would if I had Tracy Barlow baying for my blood, to be honest.
I know, I mean, wedding cake's not that good anyway.
What?
What do you mean, what?
Wedding cake?
Wedding cake.
Well, it depends what sort of cake it is. Sponge.
There's no cake that's good enough to convince me to stand in a room and get beaten.
You're not a cake person, though, are you?
No, that's true, actually.
If it was wedding, what do you like?
Cheese.
Wedding cheese. Wedding cheesecake.
Cheese. Wedding amuse-bouche. Wedding
roast dinner.
Yeah, all right.
Anyway, so as I say, Leanne makes fairly sharp exit. On the way back, she comes across a car accident that's happened, and this was Ryan had been hit, or was it Michelle? I can't remember. They were caught up in that story with Evil Cormac. No, yeah, and Ronan Truman, wasn't it? It was another drugs lord. There's so many bloody drugs lords on Coronation Street at the moment.
So cliche now.
Yeah.
Where are the
drugs ladies? Or is that Sharon?
Yeah,
I guess it is.
She's the kingpin. She's the queen
the queen pin of Weatherfield. So Leanne comes across this, and then she ends up getting involved and reversed over, which was an epic moment, because you kind of see the camera is inside the car, isn't it? And you see Leanne just go boof on the back windscreen of it, and then she gets reversed over. And as people who, as we've said, have had a love and hate relationship with Leanne, we maybe gave a little bit of a cheer when that happened.
Oh no!
Just because it was exciting. I don't think we knew that was going to happen.
I wouldn't say that.
Anyway, she's fine, and it all turns out for the best anyway, because when she's there in hospital, they phone her next of kin list, which turns out to be Nick. He's her emergency contact.
1999.
So he comes along. Ben Price is back off his little jollies, and they get back together again.
He's
lovely.
I escaped from the quicksand.
Yes.
In 2019, it all comes out that Nick's been busy when he's been away. He's got an estranged wife called Elsa, but they're getting divorced, so she sticks by his side.
That's a weird story. That kind of is one of these things that happened in a character's past that I just kind of file away and say,
under stupid.
That didn't happen.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Just forget about that. It was just a little thing that was introduced so that when the character could come back, they could have a little bit of a springboard for a story.
We're like fundamentalists.
He didn't get married to
Christian
Elsa, really,
parents
did he?
hiding horrible things that our children have done.
Yeah.
So that we get the TV money. Where are we? So they move in together in Victoria Court.
Nick and Leanne, do you?
Yeah. Alongside Toya and Imran.
Yeah, they live together in the flat for a bit, don't they, Imran and Toya? Yeah.
Toya and Imran start to believe that Nick was responsible for the roof collapse.
What?
Because there's a report. And it's under the bed and stuff, etc. And Leanne's like...
What was the story with the report?
The report exists.
This was the report that Wayne had made, wasn't it? On who he believed was responsible for the roof collapse. And it turns up underneath Nick's pillow, and we still don't know why. And I don't think we're going to find out.
We're never going to find out now, but it was to do with the factory cutting corn. Look, don't ask me. I don't think anyone knows.
Gary did it. He knows. It's still going 2 years later.
Leanne's suspicious. Then she finds out the reason he's acting so shady is because he stole Audrey's money Then she helps him pin the crime on David, but then he confesses anyway. But he doesn't get a custodial sentence.
No, he goes to prison for a bit when he's on remand, doesn't he? But he manages to.
You got to get some material to write your book, can't you?
Then we move to last year, and oh boy, is there tragedy for Leanne in 2020.
She gets a lot of time on the box.
She is on the onions all year, is Leanne, isn't she?
Onions?
Get the tears flowing.
Oh, yeah, rubbing him right into the tear ducts. She's got her own...
I can't think of any other way that she was able to produce
During the
quite so
day,
many.
Madame may wish to take an onion, but in the evening, it is easier to carry a shallot.
I think that Bhavna was her muse and taught her everything she knew about how to produce tears on cue.
Yeah?
Yes, what? What did you give me that look for?
I didn't give you a look.
Oh, I thought you gave me a look, sorry. So, serious time, everybody. Ollie started having seizures. He was only 3, 2, really young, little.
You're being sarcastic.
I'm not, I'm just saying this is what happened.
You don't have a good...
This was the story.
This is the trouble here. Neither of us have a convincing, sincere voice. Even though we do, you might not believe this, have sincere feelings and thoughts from time to time. This was sad, even if you didn't care about Oliver.
Oliver was diagnosed
You can't tell me most people cared about Oliver, because he wasn't
Oliver had no personality.
No.
And we did... So one of the things we said at the time was maybe it would have been better if it was a child character who we had grown to like. And, you know...
He barely had a chance.
He was diagnosed with mitochondrial disease. And this was obviously a massive story for last year.
Yep.
Because they are actually going to kill off a child. And this had been done previously on Coronation Street. Because old baby Shannon, before she was even 1, was killed off with... what did she have?
The one where you roll a thing
meningitis.
Yeah.
She had, didn't she? And it was Leanne who found Shannon dead back in 1998. Yep. So she's not having good luck with that. So everybody basically tells Leanne, as the months go on, that this outlook is looking pretty hopeless. Chances for Ollie are very, very slim. But Leanne does everything she can to try and save him. She kind of fights with the hospital. She argues with the doctors. She tries to get this German doctor, Dr. Schmitz, to come over. She kind of lies to Dr. Schmitz on the phone that Ollie's symptoms aren't as bad as they actually are. She goes to court to try and stop them turning off Oliver's life support. And one by one, her supporters just drop off. Even Steve, the Ollie's dad, decides, look, we need to let him die with dignity. There's nothing that we can do here.
She was convinced that some miracle would happen, but it got to the point where Oliver was in a unconscious, and they didn't know if he was in pain. There was no way he was going to.
He wasn't responding to anything, and she would kind of see things and say he responded like there was a door slammed or something. He moved. But anyway, she's eventually persuaded to let him die, and
she was so fantastic.
She was brilliant as Jane Danson during that story. Absolutely amazing.
One of the best performances of the year.
Yeah, it's a big story, and she
wasn't, sort of a suffering martyr saint woman. She was bitchy. She was unkind. She got angry. She kind of pushed people away. She really
split
really
the fan
honest.
base, didn't she? Because some people were saying, "No, Leanne, you're going too far," and other people were saying, "No, this is how any mum would react." And
not any mum.
No, but some people were saying that.
Yeah,
and we're not parents, obviously, but I think we were more on Leanne's side, and that we understood why she was reacting, why she was.
Well, I have sympathy for people in soaps who don't react in the the nice,
acceptable way.
Yeah, exactly. Especially women who are always expected, #be kind, always to make yourself small to save other people's emotions. She wasn't doing any of that. She didn't care about anybody except her and Oliver.
Yeah, and she was throwing Steve out of the hospital room as well, wasn't she?
She was saying it was my child.
Yeah,
I gave birth to him. I'm the one who gets to make all of the decisions. And
And Nick as well, he was being pushed away, because to make matters worse, while this was going on, this is when Natasha, who is Nick's ex, rocks up in Weatherfield with Nick's secret son Sam in tow.
Cutest boy in the world.
Yeah, so that makes things pretty tough, because Leanne's telling Nick, you're not his dad.
You're not the dad.
And then this new family, ready-made family, comes along in the shape of Natasha and Nick. So yeah, things are pretty rubbish. Natasha and Sam, sorry. And Ollie dies eventually, and over Christmas, this is when Leanne gets like proper depressed. She kicks Nick's out. She pretends to go and see Stella in France. Yeah, but she's actually just hermiting it up in the flat. And she spends Christmas having been pretty sad and lonely.
Yeah. In 2021, that's the year that we're in at the moment. Over halfway, everyone. She continues to struggle with the fact that she's lost Oliver, and she even contacts a psychic on the television to try to connect with him. Meanwhile, she's taking her eye off the ball a little bit. Simon starts delivering drugs for Harvey. Leanne finds out about it, and then she's like, look, you're rubbish at delivering drugs. I'll do it.
Let me show you how it's done, Simon.
So she tries to protect him by taking it over.
She had to dress up as a nurse, didn't she?
Yeah, she eventually goes to police. She helps them with a sting operation, and then she goes on the run, which was a bit silly. She just goes
nobody was very good at keeping it a secret, were they?
Harvey's auntie Sharon, evil Sharon Gaskill as was, comes to the street, tries to hunt Leanne down, keeps asking people, where is Leanne, in a really pointed way.
Nobody suspects it.
Nobody suspects a thing.
Jenny maybe, had her doubts that her intentions weren't completely honourable. But
Jenny would have suspected Sharon of being up to no good if she turned up with a bus full of nuns to, clean the streets and buy everybody lunch.
That does sound pretty suspicious.
It's a bit suspicious, isn't it? Leanne agrees not to drop Harvey in it when the case comes to trial, but then she has a last-minute change of heart and sends him down.
Yeah, and that's where we are up to now, isn't it?
As a consequence, absolutely nobody was shot.
No.
What a letdown.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is Leanne. Will we revisit her character again? Quite possibly, because it certainly feels like Leanne's in it for the long term. I don't know whether, what Jane Danson's plans are for, sticking with the show. She obviously has had a bit of time away from Coronation Street over the past 25 years, but she's
in the bill.
She's,
get killed in the bill. Be on Dancing on Ice.
She was on Dancing on Ice at the same time as Coronation Street, I think. But yeah, it feels like she's, here for the long haul, doesn't it?
She's a stalwart.
Yeah, she's going to be, like the Gales and the Audreys and the Sallys, just somebody who is a permanent resident on the street, and I'm happy for her if that's the case, because I've come out of my period of Leanne hatred.
Me too. I really like Leanne.
Sometimes it can feel a bit much.
It kicks in and you're like, shut up, Leanne.
It does sometimes, but definitely compared to 5-6 years ago, I am all on board bus Team Leanne.
She just feels a bit more like a rounded character, and it also feels like we were invited into her world when Ollie was dying, and it was all just very Leanne centric. And once you've spent that long in someone else's head, I think you just have a deeper empathy for what they're thinking and why they're thinking it.
I think part of the problem I have had with Leanne in the past is that she just has a go at people, and she's very relentless in her attacks.
She's dogmatic.
She is. She won't let things go, and sometimes she just wants to say, "Just shut up, Leanne, please."
Yeah, but I've never heard anyone say that to me before.
It feels like that it's not quite as bad as that now, and I think definitely Toya coming along has really, really helped the character of Leanne, because especially for the long-term Coronation Street fan, it takes your minds back to the classic days of the late 90s, and this great team together, and they don't always have lots of scenes together, Leanne and Toya, and sometimes they'll come round and Toya will be, "Oh, love," and Leanne will be, "Oh, tell me about it," and then they'll probably have an argument about something, and Leanne will throw Toya out and disown her, and then they'll make up again. But sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're together and united front, like what we said earlier when Toya was landlady of the Rovers and Leanne was her right hand woman alongside with Eva. That was fantastic. There was also a scene I remember around that time. Do you remember when Peter was going out with old Chloe Moneybags? I can't remember what Chloe Tipton her name was, and she was. What was she doing? Something dodgy with Peter. And there was a scene where Leanne and Toya go round Chloe's house.
Oh, the Scooby-Doo scene?
No, not the Scooby-Doo scene. This was that they go round her house and kind of confront her in a kitchen or something. And
That's the spirit.
Yeah, and that was the most old school Battersby they have been. So they come back. They went and they were the tough girls.
Threatening.
Yeah, and it's just scenes like that.
Still got it in them.
That shows they have still got it. And also, as I alluded to earlier, there have been some very short comedy periods. Mostly involving Steve.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's appropriate at the moment, but I do hope that it's not too long before we get to see Leanne having a more light-hearted story.
Yeah, having a bit of a more rounded experience.
Yeah. I don't know what it could be, and I know some characters are there for the drama, especially if the actresses are particularly good at turning on the waterworks and portraying these wide range of emotions, from miserable to angry to sad to upset to narky to miffed. No wonder they're going to give them that type of story, because you can't give every actor and actress every story that comes along, and some are more suited to particular stories than others. But yeah, I'd really like to see her having fun, but she's not just going to click her fingers and get over Ollie, is she? I mean, we saw Leanne on this week's episodes when she turned 40 and she was struggling on her birthday because this is her first birthday post Oliver's death. Yeah. And it was supposed to be her, it was her 40th birthday, so it was supposed to be a big one. And I don't know. I mean, you can't ever really get over something like that happening, can you? But it'd be nice to think that some kind of fun, some kind of challenge, something that can not take her mind off it, because
she can't do the fun runs because Steve's cornered that market.
Oh yeah.
With raising money for charity.
Mm. So I was interested to know what you thought, whether
me.
Yeah, because we've just watched the late 90s episodes. What did you think of early Leanne? Because you'd never seen her like that, had you? You've been watching Corrie since early 2000s, so you've almost only known Leanne as she is now. I mean, I know we said in the mid 2000s she was still a bit of a scally, but in proper,
it's really funny,
raw, uncensored, chavvy Leanne, what did you think of her?
She was just wild, wasn't she? She was good fun, but I don't think she was that likeable. Even then, to me,
I thought that she was quite. I enjoyed her. I enjoyed rewatching the "Who Do You Think You Are" scene at the factory, which I can't remember.
I saw that. That was funny. But the stuff that she gets involved with almost immediately, being dramatic with Nick and running off to get married,
to Gretna Green.
See, I found and then the baby dying, and then her breaking up with Nick, and
I found the Gretna Green stuff quite fun. Just like. Them deciding, wouldn't it be funny if we got married?
Because Nick was such a drip and she was so sort of vivacious. They just seemed kind of completely unsuited to one another, because he was such a mummy's boy as well, wasn't he?
Mm. It seems the tables have turned a little bit now. He seems to be the one in control a little bit in the relationship. He's got more assertive.
I don't know. I think
the years have gone on and his actor has changed.
But I also think he has softened since he's met Sam.
Yeah, that's true.
He's definitely become more family orientated.
Yeah.
And you said Leanne decided at the age of 36 to have Oliver, and that was her only chance.
Mm.
But it is possible that she and Nick could have a child.
It's possible, but she has had these.
So what?
I just saying she has had these fertility issues in the past.
I know,
Ollie was a little miracle.
Yeah,
a little lift baby.
I'm just saying, as a woman who is not that far away from 40, my womb hasn't fallen out yet.
No,
they don't advise you to have children, ever. Because it's bad for you. But it's certainly physically possible for you to have a child.
Yeah. It's weird. I don't know whether she'd think that she was disrespecting Ollie's memory by replacing him.
I don't know. It's not like getting another cat.
I still think. I mean, there's still the whole lingering issue of Sam and what's going to happen with this.
Do you remember about Erica?
Oh yeah, I know.
Nick got Erica pregnant, didn't he?
He did. Maybe he's got a way with
older ladies.
Yeah.
Sorry, Leanne,
you're not as old. You're not as old as Erica was. Wow. When going through that story.
Listen, I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and they said 50. Oh yeah, still young, and I was like, oh yeah, 50 still young.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, I'm nowhere near that.
Absolutely. Do you think that Leanne will kind of get more accepting of Sam and welcome him into the life? There's still the whole thing of, when's Natasha going to die?
When's Natasha
because
going to die?
she's kind of just had to hang her on to this story.
She's like the mother.
There's no spoilers there, but we've been thinking this for months. She doesn't seem to fit, and it would just be very neat and handy for the plot if
she's the mother at the beginning of all great children's adventure books, where the mother dies so that the child can go off and have adventures, just like in Harry Potter.
Yes. Yeah.
Sam would make a pretty good Harry Potter. I mean, when did they start making the Harry Potter films? About 20 years ago. It's about time to remake them now, I think. Don't you reckon?
Yeah.
They're ripe for a remake.
Don't take him away from Coronation Street.
Well, he was not old enough to be Harry Potter yet.
So we got him as Harry Potter. We got Natasha Blakeman playing Lily Evans. You're saying? Who's Lord Voldemort?
Who's Voldemort?
I've got an idea.
Who?
I'm not saying.
Sharon.
What? You imagine Voldemort fighting Harry. Have it! With his wand.
It's abracadabra, not Abbott.
Abracadabra. I'll tell you later who I think for Voldemort.
Okay. I'm really curious.
One thing that I do wish that it'd be nicer if we had more of a family reunion, especially if they're going to keep Leanne and presumably Toya in the show for the long term. Oh, you want
the dad and the mum?
Well, it just feels like if you're going to have a character with so much drama going on as Leanne, and she can't help it, she's a bit of a magnet. A drum magnet.
No.
Drum magnet. That's kind of new phrase.
No, you haven't.
You would have
magnet?
Thought, yes, draw magnet. Somebody who attracts drama.
Draw magnet.
Yes, it's brilliant.
It's awful.
You'd have thought that Janice would turn up, or Stella. Stella's in France at least. As far as we know, Janice lives in Liverpool.
Evoke the name of Stella to have.
I don't really want Stella coming back, but I would walk over.
Eva.
Yeah, I'll walk over broken glass to get Eva to come back to Coronation Street.
I've walked on broken glass before.
Is it hurt? Is it a bit sore?
Really hurts. It just sticks.
I didn't say that I do it barefoot.
I'll crunch some glass up with my trainers. I don't care. I'm barred.
I'd love to build up that family unit again. I mean,
that trio was so great, brought out the best of all the characters, and I think it looked like the actors were enjoying it as well.
Where would you like to see Leanne kind of ending up? Is she going to go back to work at the lawyer's office because she spent that time working for Imran, didn't she, when she took over from Rosie?
She came back, I think. She had a load of work to do to catch up.
Is she back? Is she?
I remember her saying that she was. I don't know. If she
went on the run, didn't she? She couldn't commute to the lawyer's office from a top secret hidey hole.
It's difficult to be the office administrator and work remotely.
I'd quite like to see her maybe at the Rovers again. I don't know. I don't know whether
there's no room at the Rovers.
I don't know whether Jenny and Leanne would necessarily work together.
No, I don't think they would. I think Leanne would try and tell
it
Jenny
just
what
feels
to do.
like Leanne, as such a legacy character, deserves more.
Well, I really enjoyed
an
her
office job.
Being at the bistro. Like, we kind of forget that she's a bit of an entrepreneur when it comes to the restaurant trade.
I don't know whether I like that because
Michelle did it as well.
It kind of, the thing that I don't like about Leanne is when she kind of thinks she's above everyone else.
She's bossy.
She's a bit bossy, and maybe if
they never use that word for men.
If she's a
man,
they do.
No, they don't. The man's just the boss.
There is Mr. Bossy. He's one of the Mr. Men.
He's the most maligned man of all time.
Most maligned man. No, I think if she thinks she gets ideas above a station if she's the boss of the bistro. So somewhere in between bistro boss and Imran Skivvy, there's a job perfect for Leanne. I just can't quite work out what it is.
Fun
yet.
time lady for hire.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Madam of the fun time ladies for hire.
Oh dear. So I think that's about it. That is the story of Leanne.
Let's get her an award, please.
She's won. Really
Jane Danson has won the 2011 Best Dramatic Performance in the British Soap Awards.
That's it.
But where's the rest of the awards?
I was stunned when I was like, I need to do some research to find out what awards Leanne has won. Although some of the stories have probably won awards, Jane Danson, as far as I can tell from the internet, again, shoot me down if I'm wrong, please. But I'm just basing this on IMDb and Wikipedia. She's only won one award 10 years ago for Best Dramatic Performance. There have been periods in, since we've been doing the podcast where she was up for all the awards, wasn't she? Every time a ceremony came round, best female actor or best dramatic performance, whatever, Jane Danson was there. And
all win.
She's had a quiet few years.
To be nominated is an honour in itself.
I was starting to wonder what was going on with Leanne before the Ollie storyline, because she hadn't had anything big for a long time. But she really, really deserves to get something, because she is one of Coronation Street's most talented actresses at the moment. Is Jane Danson?
Well, they're all. I mean, it's difficult to pick.
There are lots of great actresses, but I think that she's up there.
She's had a great deal asked of her, and she has.
And the fact that she's carried on with her stories, we've said on the normal podcast, after Ollie died, and even Simon Gregson had a bit of a break, didn't they? After that,
Jane Danson's like, I'm not leaving. You better give me a script, because I'm going to be in the background.
And it wouldn't surprise me if she does go quiet for the second half of 2021. But then equally, it wouldn't surprise me if she's just
like, centre of attention, please.
Keeps on going.
Yeah,
good for her. Good for Jane.
Yeah, love it. Never thought I'd say that about Leanne.
I know. It's really nice when you can have a character that you can, utterly despise and make fun of for a long time, and kind of people know you.
Yeah, you become notorious for hating that character.
Yeah,
but I just want to go on the record to say that this will never happen with Tim. There's no rehabilitation.
I wondered whether you were going to make Tim.
Tim and I will never be.
Gemma, we used to like Tim.
That's why I am even more disgusted at how far he's fallen.
You.
It's my thing. It's my thing. No, it's my thing.
What tragedy could befall Tim that could make us hate him? I don't know.
Lobotomy.
His daughter gets sent to prison for 3 years. Oh wait.
What a tragedy.
Anyway, that is it for Leanne. Hope you enjoyed listening to that little recap. That was ever so slightly longer than the first episode, but we waffle on more now because I don't know why. I just like each other's company that much.
Every year we grow more in love.
If you would like to send in your thoughts about Leanne and whether you like her or don't like her, is she better with Peter? Is she better with Nick? Tell you what, I'm done now with going back and forth between them. Leanne and Nick are together. Peter and Carla are together.
That's it.
Please just leave it at that. No new producers coming in and say, "Oh, what if?"
No. Done with
That's
it.
how they need to start.
Whether the washing machine has been disconnected from the mains.
Yes, please.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so anyway, write in. Tell us your Leanne thoughts. If you like her, if you hate her, if you are Jane Danson, I hope that you weren't too offended by this.
Right, and unless. No.
You said lots of lovely things as well. I really think you're very nice. And if you know her, please pass on the message.
Are we done?
I think we're done.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. We're going to be back, if you're listening to this as the podcast now, it is the weekend, so we're going to be back midweek next week to talk about the final week of ITV Hub uploads of the show. So look out for that if you're binging it along with us. If not,
deal with it.
Hold it. You have to deal with it, won't you? Deal with it. Let's go.